Hi guys, welcome back to the Fermented World channel. Today we're going to be brewing a mead with a bit of a difference. We're going to be brewing one with some pear drops. These were bought for the kids, or sorry, given to the kids by my mum. They've not eaten them. They've all gone rock solid and all stuck together. So instead of wasting them, I'm going to put them in a mead and see what bloody well happens. Break the mold, try new things. It's the only way we know how to, get new recipes and stuff like that. You've got to prat around and have a go. So let's weigh how much we've got just for the sake of reason, so that people know how much to use if they want to try this. They don't look all that impressive. They've dried out ever so slightly. I'm very tempted to eat one. I'm going to have a yellow one because there's more red ones than there is yellow ones. Oh my God, everyone's red. Right, so let's just weigh what we've got. Eight 88 grams. So you could go ahead and put 100 grams in. I've only got 88 because I've scoffed one. But just say 100 grams. For the sake of reason, if I was to do this again, I'd aim for 100 grams. Okay, so yeast needs to go in my pocket. It needs to heat up slightly. We are going to get some hot water. And now I've just realized that I've got to do this whole video with a flipping sweet in my mouth. So we're going to go half a litre of hot water. Bandabby dozy. A little bit less actually, but it'll be fine. And we're going to bash our honey in. So I'm going to speed this bit up because it's boring. So we're just going to mix now the honey into that hot water, let it dissolve, ready for when we top up with more hot water. So I put the kettle on and I've made a cup of tea. Now the tea is not for drinking, the tea is for tannins. Just gives it a bit of mouthfeel and a different kind of presence on the tongue. So you know when you've stewed a cup of tea for an extremely long time and it's kind of got that zing to it, that's what we're looking for. So I'm going to let that brew and cool for 10 minutes and then we're going to come back and add it to this. I don't really want to add any water to this just yet. To be honest, we could probably just add it hot after the 10 minutes if it is, as long as we don't put any more cold water in just yet. I mean, that's mostly dissolved in there now, so I'm quite happy with that. So 10 minutes time, we'll be back with the cup of tea. We'll add the cup of tea, we'll get some more cold water in there, then we shall add yeast nutrients, we shall add the pear drops themselves, and then pitch some yeast. Right, so 10 minutes has passed. I quickly covered this over because we do get fruit flies start to come in at this time of year, and they, for some reason, they're drawn towards mead. I don't know why. Must be the sugar in it. It's the only explanation I can think of. But they love to get in there, sit in the airlocks as well. So in with the tea, which is still hot, so it doesn't matter. It's going to help us mix this honey in a bit better. Next step is to add or top up the water to around 4.5 litres. Now these are boiled sweets. These will not float. These will just sit at the bottom and kind of slowly dissolve and ferment, hopefully. I do already have the idea that I may have to add some in secondary as well and wait a little bit longer, as if it ferments the flavour out as well, we may end up with no pear drops flavour, which would be catastrophic. So yeah, let's go fill this up to the 4.5 litre mark. There we are. So just give that a good mix. And then we're going to add the yeast nutrients. One level teaspoon of. Just gives the yeast a little bit of a helping hand, because the honey doesn't have any nutrients in per se that the yeast might need, so it just gives it a little bit of a boost. We're going to mix that in. Like so. And I'm going to take a hydrometer reading. If you're not aware of what a hydrometer is, if you're new here, I should explain. So this device measures the density of a liquid. So the more stuff that's dissolved into a liquid, i.e. water, the more dense it becomes, because those particles are then part of the water as well. So for instance, if you've got loads of sugar dissolved into your water, then that liquid then becomes more dense, which means it's more buoyant, which means it will hold something up more. So we take a hydrometer reading at the beginning of the fermentation, right, which gives us a start gravity or an original gravity. Then we take one again when we have finished, and that allows us to calculate roughly how much ABV and alcohol we've got. So this one's bang on the book, really. It's at the 1 mark, 1.100, which is good. That's exactly where I wanted it to start. And now we'll go get the demijohn. We are going to, first of all, we're going to add the pear drops, because we don't want to have them sploshing about and causing a mess later. So in there you go. I'm not breaking them down or anything. I'll learn from my mistakes if this goes tits up. Now, there's not really many in there, but you know, they're in there, and we'll see what happens. I love a good experiment. I love prattling around with daft ideas as well. Just break the mold, do something different. So we've got our tea in there now as well. That's all that. So now all that's left to do is to pour it in. Check the temperature. Temperature is reading about 22 here, which is damn good. Just give it another little bit of a swizzle. Oh, I'm spilling it everywhere again. It needs oxygen to start, you see, for the yeast to make a proper strong colony, to be able to take on all the sugars and convert them into CO2 and alcohol. So I'm going to speed this bit up, because pouring must into there is not all that entertaining. Let's give that a quick swizzle. And then we're going to pitch this yeast. Make sure you do double check the temperature before you pitch your yeast. If you pitch it too high, it will kill the yeast. If you pitch it too low, it will take just longer for it to get started. I find between 26 and 22 is a perfect start temperature. I had one going in less than 12 hours, happily bubbling away. Right, so in with the half a packet of yeast. You don't need a full pack. If you want to use a full pack, you use a full pack, but I've learned over the time that you don't need it. And why would you use all of a packet of yeast if you can make two batches of yeast, 2 batches of mead out of one thing? Economy. And then make sure all that yeast is wet. And there's some bits on the top bit there, so you just cover the top. get some beans, just drops it all off the glass. You get sticky fingers, but life goes on. And there we are. We have completed the setup of the mead, and now what that's going to do is the yeast will form a colony. There might be a bit too much in that actually, looking at that. Yeah, the yeast will form a colony and prepare to take on anything that's fermentable in there. Now, I didn't read the ingredients of the Pear Drops, and I'm not even going to try and figure out what percentage of it's fermentable. Per 100 grams, 66 grams of that is sugar, which is a considerable amount of sugar. So it's going to be, if it does ferment them out, which it should, ferment the Pear Drops out, it'll be stronger than whatever we predict it to be, because we haven't taken into account this, because we don't know how much of this it's going to be able to do, whether it's going to do any of it or whatever. So it'd be daft to try and to do that. All in all, it doesn't seem to have any fermentation stoppers in, so we should be good. And even the one that the figs and the fig and cinnamon mead that I did do like 2 days ago, started it. It had no problems getting past the potassium sorbet, which was on the figs as well. Just because of the volume of yeast that we put in, it's just the small amount that's on the figs just can't stop the fermentation. When that potassium sorbet is a fermentation stopper. So for the next 2 days, or until I see a fermentation starting, I'm just going to keep jigging it around, getting it swirling, and yeah, I'm going to label this up. I'm going to make some notes. Making notes is very, very important. Rule number one with me, I know I said this in the last video, so sorry if I'm repeating myself, but rule number one is sanitize everything, absolutely everything. If you don't, you could end up with an infection in there, which is just going to make it taste nasty, or or it's just going to end up turning into vinegar or whatever. So sanitize everything. Secondly, make notes. Always make notes. So for example, I even weighed out the amount of Pear Drops that I was using and then rounded it off to the 100, so that I know that I used 100 grams. Because if you do something and you just bang them in and you're like, oh, how many did I use last time? Oh, I don't know, let's try and guess at it. You're not going to create the same thing that you created last time if you really enjoyed it. So always make notes. Just get yourself a little notebook. I've got one like this, and I've got this little storage thing here, which is what I keep all of my beer slips in. So beers that are brewed and stuff like that, all the instructions and that. Just keep them somewhere safe. You never know when you're going to need them. Anywho, jabbering on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.